Good evening. We've reached that point in the day when we're doing another interview, and I'm very grateful to have another dear friend of mine on to discuss various issues from his point of view. So I just want to welcome Mr. Chris Taylor from Don't Let Them Burn. Chris, how are you?
I am doing great. Lovely end of the year, and thanks for having me.
No, not at all. It's really great to have you on my show instead of me, which I always thoroughly enjoy going on your show. And yes, we will be doing that soon. And yes, I will be got to get Carl where we can sit down and discuss with you the Parliament of World Religions and everything else.
All
So,
right.
Chris, I've been talking to our dear friend David Paxton in New York, getting an idea of what is going on there, what has been going on. And you are in a different part of America. I won't reveal that, but you are, unless you wish to, but you are in a different part of the United States of America. One of the things that people forget is that you are as far as I'm concerned, you are a continent. The UK can fit into Texas nearly, well, it was two and a half to nearly three times. In North Dakota, which is half the size of the UK, there's only 700,000 people living in North Dakota, where in the UK there's 68 million and climbing people living within the UK. Whether who's legal and who's illegal is another situation. So, Chris, the last 3 years, what's gone on? What's gone on over the last 3 years, sir? What have we had to deal with on both sides of the pond? But more importantly, what have you had to deal with on your side of the pond?
Well, I like to start off and say that the world is not changing; it has already changed. Okay, so everybody's been through the thing that you know everyone's getting censored for the big
Mm.
Divic,
Yeah, yeah,
sitting way
yeah.
backwards, and in October, I believe it was October 2019, I heard about this gene therapy that was coming and that it would be mandated around the globe, right? And I was with my daughter on a trip to, actually, it was a Hear the Watchman conference. And I looked at her and I said, you know what? I don't know what this all means, but I believe what this guy is saying. And and that was Patrick from Technocracy Rising. Okay, Patrick Wood.
Patrick Wood, yeah.
Yeah. So I called a couple people and said, "Hey, just heard about this thing. Not sure what's going on, but you might want to put it in your back pocket and see what happens." And so we all know what happened around March 2020, and from there I was like, "Okay, so this is what's going on." And later on, we heard about the gene therapies that are coming and coming and whatnot. And lo and behold, we had a flood of mandates all over the place. You can't go out. You got to stay home. You got to put on this face diaper and all sorts of things we went through. We went through social distancing. We went through drones in Europe, hunting people down in the middle of nowhere. We
That's
had
right. That's right.
um, robotic dogs in Singapore, telling people to get off the streets, and that was a DARPA project, right? It's a bunch of stuff that went on that a lot of people still don't know actually went on. What they do remember is the mandates, the mask, and the gene therapy. But so many things happened. You know, the rise of domestic abuse, the domestic violence, the rise of suicides. Some places they went out of existence because of starvation and staying home. They couldn't go and get what they needed
Mm.
in the more poorer countries. So many things happened, and so in the middle of that, we have what we dubbed the Summer of Love, George Floyd, and all the things that went on with that. Turns out a lot of it was a lie, and the rise of the color revolution through Antifa and BLM. and our cities were, well, at least in the blue states, almost literally burned to the ground. Through all this violence and for even with BLM, they killed people they say they love so much. You know, there was a cop that was killed in one of these riots, and a couple different other what they dub people of color, right? And you're like, people are not seeing this because the media blackout was so tremendous. It was ridiculous, and it's still the same way now. But what I see is a lot of people waking up through all of that chaos. They're waking up now. People that wouldn't listen, people that were smart, but they couldn't get, well, it's not that they couldn't get the truth, they wouldn't research the truth, but now we have an upsurge of people that are just waking up left and right, no matter the political spectrum. Okay. So I said a lot. But that was 20 end of 2019 and beginning of 2020 throughout, and what do we lead up to that November? There was an election, and uh let's just call it a burglary or something, however we're gonna
Yeah,
work,
yeah,
you know uh things were taken, and who we wanted in power got the shaft. And I
mm,
believe that happened for two reasons. One, I believe, is biblical. They were close to making this peace deal in the east with Israel and whatnot. But in that peace deal was something about dividing the land, and we know that goes
absolutely,
against God's
absolutely.
will. So that could
Yeah.
be one reason why,
Mm,
one reason
mm.
alone why he probably didn't get the office from a prophetic angle. The second angle, like we said, there was a burglary, there was a plot, and we know that God is the only one that allows kings to come and go. He puts them in there, right? And so, even though we have that evil plot by people that didn't want him back, we also have the prophetic angle, is what I'm trying to say. And so we saw what happened, and leading up to 2021, we have J6. Whole bunch of stuff to talk about. Go ahead.
No, I think thank you for summarizing that, because the other thing is that we do forget a tremendous amount. You made a very interesting comment in regard to George Floyd, that actually the way things worked out was not what it was actually portrayed in the news. In the media, do you want to expand on that a bit? Because I have got one point I can make on that. I just wonder what your thoughts were.
Okay, well, for people that don't know, he had a lot of drugs in his system,
Hmm.
George here, and one of them happens to be the drug imported from China, which is fentanyl. So he was on his way out even before the cop touched him.
Hmm.
Okay, and with some evidence showed that they even knew each other. I'm not saying it was this conspiracy per se. Let's do this and let's get George Floyd and da, 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 da. I'm not saying that, but they knew each other in a sense. And you know, from the pictures that were shown in the media, anyone would assume that yeah, he killed him. But later on, it turns out they didn't. You know, so that little bit of information, that little nugget right there alone should ask people. I mean, to get people to question the narrative.
I couldn't agree with you more. And there is a documentary that has been made about that, about the lady is a journalist. She was working for a TV company, married to a cop, and then started investigating what was going on.
Mhm.
No, I'm not. Is it the burning of Minnesota or Minneapolis? I do apologize to get my geography maybe extremely wrong there,
Mm.
but that's the documentary. Where was the incident of George Floyd that happened? Was it in Minneapolis?
I believe so. I'm rusty on it too,
Yeah,
because
no, don't worry. But that is what the documentary is about, and is looking into that. But of course, no, then the positioning of them actually holding him, pinning him down, is not how certain things are portrayed. And you're right in regard to the drugs. So that all of that blowing up, and then Okay, so a certain individual didn't get in. There were windows blacked out and various things and shenanigans going on that in some ways have in the past certain aspects of those shenanigans have also gone on as well.
Mhm.
So what you raise a very important question, Chris. I
Mhm.
think is vital. It's not going to go down. It doesn't go down very well with many. But October the 7th, the incident not incident, the appalling pogrom, excuse me, in Israel that happened on the 7th of October, a few weeks ago. It's clear we are not called to divide the land,
Mhm.
and that there is a covenant, and that land was given to the Jewish people,
Yeah.
who of course are not perfect, and nor are we, and there's a long way to go yet. But the key is this, is that we are not called to divide the land. And you raise a very important comment that within the Abraham Accords is that, I believe, in regard to Jerusalem.
Mhm.
So this isn't right.
Yeah. And we
And
sorry, not to interrupt you, but
no.
we have to realize that it wasn't Trump's plan; it was Jared's plan.
Hmm.
If people don't realize that, they kind of get confused at who really illustrated this whole thing, organized it, ready to go. And I call it the beast within. It's like this guy is in touch with the man. He's married to his daughter, and so he has a lot of access. And that access came with some dangerous things.
I agree. And also what's been revealing to me over the last few weeks, then really trying to get my head down in regard to Israeli politics and
Mhm.
discover what's gone on since 1973, and the incredible Israeli journalist Caroline Glick, who does the Glick show
Mhm.
on JNS every night. Um, just superb information that she then is finding out and putting out there. And she just said that within the left there is a mindset of, well, let's just keep giving land up for peace, land up for peace. Now they're boxing themselves in and realizing that no, they can't do that.
Right?
And it's very easy. I know it's very easy for me to say, because I watched some of the pain of Israelis being dragged out of Gaza by members of their own defense forces of the IDF by 2005, and they had withdrawn from Gaza to give the Palestinians, so-called, which is a construct that's constructed from 1968, between 1964 and 68, somewhere along there. I think Yasser Arafat had been into a PR firm or a media firm within America to then change creating the Palestinian uh, people then, and the mindset of victimology then came about.
Mhm.
But the left have kept saying within Israel, it's land for peace. And what it's done is, for a number of us, including you, is that we have then gone down the rabbit hole of looking at the politics. And I'm annoyed to say that I have not paid attention to certain things at all. And again, it's how leaders and people are presented. And again, on this side of the pond, we'd fallen for that. On your side of the pond, the rhinos, Republican in name only, and all this kind of thing. We have conservative in name only, and all of this. So this has been exposed, which is fascinating. Um, but it's meant for those of us that are interested. We will go down that rabbit hole and find out all this important information. So Jared did that. So Chris, can you go back to the election in November 2020, do you remember waking up the next day and going, well, that's an interesting set of mathematic figures of how they've worked that one out? Do you remember that?
Yeah, I remember we were doing a 5-hour podcast that night, live stream.
Right.
And, we're all very positive about what was going to go on until everything stopped. And also, I think it was Fox News that they announced the winner early.
Yes, they did. They yeah, they
right?
did.
And so that night, the air was taken out of our balloons or whatever, however you say that. And so the next morning, it was like, okay, something's wrong here. And of course, we didn't get the results till a little bit after that.
Sorry, I apologize. Didn't Fox declare Arizona?
Yes.
And that meant what people may not fully understand on this side of the pond, we do to some extent, but it's your time zones, which at times I find rather complex, but I'm getting there. So if we think that on the West Coast and the East Coast, of course, I don't know what the time difference is between New York and California at the moment, even if you said
3 hours.
3 hours. Well, that 3 hours of let's dissuade people from going out and voting, that may have happened by actually declaring a state.
Absolutely. And there was also a premature announcement for California as well. I remember that. And some people did admit that took the air out of their tire too, but even with some people that decided, okay, we lost anyway, we still have a massive amount of fraud. So it probably wouldn't even matter. The first in 2016, Trump broke the algorithm, and pushed through. The second time, he also broke the algorithm, but they compensated way ahead of time. And we know about some people probably never heard about this, but Leonardo, the issues dealing with Italy and some other countries, and it was a dark time, man. All the stuff that was going on post election, and I can't make sense of it all, But there was a blackout at the Vatican. We heard gunshots, and so many things were. I don't know if it was taken out of context, but a lot was assumed that the letter, the 17th letter, had something to do with all this stuff. And don't worry, and news was flying you didn't know what to believe. Some of it was true, some of it, you didn't know. But my family works for the military, and they're saying this and that, and that. None of that came to fruition, whether it was true or not. So it was like living in a political thriller at the time. We jumped from WhatsApp because Facebook announced that they were listening to everything that you even think they're not listening to. And so we jumped from there to Telegram. And I mean, the news just kept coming and kept coming and kept coming. So, Pete, we had a hope per se that this whole thing would get resolved. So I don't know if many people remember that or even went through that.
Well, the thing is that then, of course, it's the Electoral College needing X amount of votes, and of course, then the ratification of that was happening on January 6, 2021, and that is another massive story in itself. Because as I sat down with one of my best friends, with David Summerall of StopHate.com, and sat down with him on January the 8th, and everything that he told me about that, it has played out. It has played out from spotting, how many people are actually working for various 3-letter agencies, are actually in the crowd. How come barriers are not there? How come there were not enough policemen, law enforcement on the ground, etc., etc., etc.? And then how things are portrayed on the right hand as you're looking at the people's house, how things are portrayed on the right hand side compared to the left hand side and around that building, and that what has then transpired, what went on, and then in a very short space of time, of course, then 5 patriots died, and I will include Officer Signick in that, even though that was a day after the event, and then all the accusations, and sadly, Kevin Greason, Benjamin Phillips, Ashley Babbitt, and Roseanne Boylan died. That's the truth of it, and Officer Signick. And the way it's been portrayed, and then everyone sat. I mean, a number of people sat back, and now there's been 125 people arrested, are in jail in America over trumped up charges of absolutely, this is an outrage. Right. So everything is then transpired, and even on that day when it was a case of, the National Guard were, let's get the National Guard in. No, let's do it. The whole thing was, I mean, it's very easy to say in hindsight, and I'm not being glib, but the whole thing was an absolute setup.
Yeah,
absolute setup. Awful.
I think if we had civics class when I grew up. I didn't go to the best schools either, but we had at least civics class. Today's children, and within my generation as well, haven't been taught much about communism. How it works. First comes censorship. We got a ton of that, right? The powers that are trying to get control are going to do false flags. They're going to usurp authority, or they're using the authority they have to make it seem through the media that they're doing good, right? But then you have the other part where it's clandestine. You don't really know what's going on. You don't know who's pulling the string. How could this happen to a country like America? They don't know the term color revolution. They don't know anything about Stalin. And if you look at the points of Stalin when he took over, the same things that are going on now happened in his reign, even with the farmers and all this stuff, right? You control the food, you control the thoughts of people, you arrest your political opponents. This is not just a banana republic thing. This is straight up from communism. Then you have your injection of fascism in there as well. So most people don't know the ingredients, and so they can't spot a color revolution when it's happening. And these people that are doing it, meaning the people that are spoken out about, meaning they let you know what they're doing on their website. Like BLM took down a lot of stuff from their website because people caught on very quickly, the people that actually know about communism, and they didn't hide that they were communists and witches. When for people that don't know, they were lesbian witches, and they told you they want to get rid of the nuclear family and all this stuff. So you mix all this stuff in a big soup, and it starts to make sense with the election, with J6, with everything that went on. And I'm not even saying that everyone that participated actually knows what they're doing, but a lot of them do, because it's like when you want to infiltrate, like say for instance, if the FBI was to say infiltrate a cult or a gang or drug operation, they want to look just like them, act just like them, speak just like them, and you can't figure out who's there, know. And so I think that's what's popping off here, and it won't get resolved but by God and whoever He allows to be put in power. Because so much, we could talk for 10 hours and we wouldn't exhaust it.
No. And what I'm finding fascinating as well, Chris, having, as you know, this summer I was at the Parliament of World Religions in Chicago, is then looking at the history of Chicago politically. I don't have to spell that out for you. Whether, Bill Ayers, of course, Barack Hussein Obama, the Clintons, Pelosi. There's all the links with that town. But if we're saying, we're not fighting flesh and blood, but principalities and powers, as Ephesians 6 lays out, then it's getting to the roots of that, getting to the history of that town, and what has gone on, because it is, just as a side, it is extremely liberal. But this is, you're right. People didn't know, and then suddenly there's the BLM Chicago chapter, and recently having gliders, on the back of their jackets and all this kind of thing. I mean, you can't make it up. They certainly were on the streets at a protest with those logos on the back of their jackets very fast. And it's as though you're going, well, where are you getting your information from to then actually do that, or to actually view this and go, no, that's fine, we're going to support this. I mean, the crimes that were done that day against humanity are off the charts, and it's just the denial. So yeah, there's been so much coming at us, and then we've had the whole Q thing. I mean, some of this is uncomfortable for us in many ways to talk about, because we've been through so many twists and turns all over this. And to me, one of the positive things about Q is that it did get people to think about their country and fight for their country and see what was going on. We now have the terms. I'm not saying this is a Q thing, but it's something out there in our lexicon. We have the shadow government, we have the deep state. And I have said publicly that when President Trump won, when Donald Trump won to become president, 45, over here, it began to get people to think about their own shadow government and deep state within our own country, because we've all been focusing on America. And I'm not having a go here. What I'm saying is, at the end of the day, this is my own personal opinion. The Truther movement, the center of the Truther movement, is America, because the way that's been founded and various other things that have gone on. But then with that event to mean that we were then beginning to look at our own shadow government, the fact that over 17 million people, well, the majority of over a million, voted out to leave the European Union. They knew something was wrong. They knew they were not in charge of their own country. Now, that's another story at the moment, how all that has worked out so far. So these are the parallels, and they're parallels that I have always drawn. But then people were it's where they're putting their faith in. And this is very difficult, because at times, I admit, I've been caught up in that, trying to work that out. And I don't sit here being someone clever. And then, we're just being deceived. As Jesus said, do not be deceived. This is our biggest challenge, Chris. What do you say?
And you're referring to the Q stuff, right?
Well, I'm referring to everything, really. When it talks about, Jesus said in the last days, in those time, do not be deceived.
Yeah. Deception is everywhere, every corner of our lives, whether it's the entertainment, the politics, the media, of course, our school system, our food, right? It's everywhere. And in certain ways, we've let it happen. We got complacent, we got fat, and we're like, this can't happen. I mean, that wasn't my train of thought, but a lot of people like, this would never happen. 9/11, our government would never do something like that. Never. Come on, really? So, the stages of a democracy, even though America is not a democracy, you get out of tyranny.
Yeah.
You get, rich, you prosper, then you get lazy. And when you get lazy, tyranny starts to come back.
Yeah.
The people's mindset are not thinking, oh, we're going to get taken over or infiltrated or all these things. And then since the CIA coined the term conspiracy theory,
Hmm.
and the news uses it like nauseum, people are using the term when they hear truth. Oh, you're just a conspiracy theorist, or that's just conspiracy. They don't even know how to define conspiracy, but they're telling me it's a conspiracy when they don't even know what it is, you know? So when it comes to the Q thing, I always define it like this. Q is real. In 2013, CNN did a report. This was when the Snowden stuff happened,
Hmm. Hmm.
and they did a news report on the Q team in the NSA. Anyone could look it up, go find it. It's a real report. Okay. So that's a real thing. And there's also what's called a Q clearance.
Yes.
Oppenheimer had
Yeah.
it, a few other
Yeah.
people, and a friend of mine's father had it. So it's not that that's not real. However, we also have within that movement what we would call a fifth column. Okay. This is where the infiltrations comes in, and they all these weird stories and just ridiculous, outlandish thing. Oh, you know, Jay-Z's not real. He's a clone. He's been executed in Guantanamo Bay, and a bunch,
Guantanamo, yeah.
you know, just weird, outlandish things. And so people latch onto that, except other than the outside of the simplification of what's been handed to you through whatever alerts, right? And so within that fifth column, you have a lot of new agers, unbelievable amount of new agers that their goal, if they know, because not every new ager knows the ultimate plots, okay? But if
Hmm. Hmm.
the ones that do know that they need to eradicate Christians,
Yeah.
um,
Yeah.
take over governments, make a new world order, invite aliens in, take over through technology and all this stuff, right? And that's what a lot of new agers push. And their magical date is 2025. Can't say anything's going to happen. I don't know, but new agers have a lot of power, more than people think. Okay, and so you'll find all of these maps of, you know, and some things in the maps is true about power, governments, and stuff from the past, how it's affecting us today, and blah blah blah. But it leads you not only down the wrong political avenue, it leads you down the wrong spiritual avenue, because now you're going to think you're a god and all these other weird things that's been taught in the new age. So I'm able to explain this because I have to look into it. I'm like, something's not right here. And I
Hmm.
see all these new ages is boom, 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 boom. And definitely, like I said before, it's definitely a fifth column to get you thinking that somebody's coming to save you. But the whole point of the Q movement from 2017 was to wake up and save your country, not wake up and wait for President Trump to come in and save you, or the military and all this other stuff, even though that's a component, you know?
Hmm.
So I think if people are able to disseminate the information in that way, they'll get a brighter uh, outlook, other than, you know, one day the military is going to show up in your neighborhood and all this other stuff. I mean,
It's been
who wants martial law?
well, no one wants. I mean, we don't want that at all. We don't want that at all.
Yeah. And
Um,
and to your statement about America, you know, the whole world knows that if America goes, so does the rest of the world. You know,
yep.
not that America hasn't done anything wrong. We are an empire in a sense. We police the world. You know, we do good, but you know, when you look at the atrocities done through America, there's no denying that there is a deep state. There is a military industrial complex. And when you say military industrial complex, it doesn't mean the Army, the Navy, the Air Force. It's these companies like Raytheon and Lockheed and Boeing and, you know, so many other names. They profit off wars. So when it came to this whole Russia and what's the doggone country?
Ukraine.
Ukraine. Before anything really started, I did a short broadcast. I'm like, they're laundering money. They got the things that you don't believe they have over there. And why is Zelensky ask, give me more money? Give me more money. Really? You know? And so the deep state, the people that have the powers that you don't think they have been laundering money. There's sex trafficking. There's actual um, democratic socialists, if you know what I'm
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
type people over there, and it's a stronghold. If you don't look into the history of Ukraine, you won't understand what's going on. And what the powers that be want you to do is jump from the next thing to the next thing to the next thing. First is the Divic, then it's the
Mm.
Ukraine, then it's Israel. You know, some of these things have been organized for you to give your money to, or for them to launder money. Money. I'm not saying the Israel thing isn't on God's timetable. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying be careful what you latch onto right away. You know,
Mm.
when it came to uh, everybody getting a boost to this, the boost to that, latched on every single time. And what happened? We see the fallout. Most people don't see it, but we pay close attention to it, and people don't realize the WEF, World Economic Forum, the UN, and other strange organizations are deeply involved. They say they want to cause a polycrisis. That means every time you look around, there's a war, there's a crisis or whatever, that's going to put you in a state of fear and leave you there. They say they want to um, get rid of traditional globalism, and which is not a good thing, but traditional globalism, and bring in a new form of globalism built on tribalism. What are they doing now across the world, trying to break us up in factions,
Yeah.
where we're just isolated, whether it's through color or religion or whatever.
Mm.
You know,
Mm.
blacks against whites, Jews against Muslims, Christians against Jews, whatever the thing is. And so this is written in their books. I can't state it any clearer. You go get um, the Great Reset book. Read it. It's only 200 and something pages, I believe. I read it. There's some weird things in there, and they want you to be controlled through technocracy. It's a real thing. Sci-fi writers have written about it for decades
Mm.
because in the early days there was a think tank of these sort of guys. I'm just bringing people down a short
Mm.
rabbit hole for them to go research themselves.
Well, that's part of the problem because a lot of people will not do the research. Chris, in regard to that, and we use that phrase "waking up." Over the last year and a half, have you noticed more people within your circle of influence, wider elsewhere on the internet and etc., in America, waking up? Have they become more of aware of the agenda going on?
Yeah, in different aspects. Right now, our political atmosphere, they're terrified. Why? Because they see that Donald Trump is blowing away every single expectation. He's leading the polls, and even the polls that don't like him, he's blowing away the competition. So they're scared, and this is why they have the indictments and the court cases, and they're trying to bankrupt him or keep
Mm.
him off the ballot. A lot of unconstitutional things. But on other fronts, the medical front, a lot of people are woken up there, and the term woke, on the other side, where this is the far left agenda, to dehumanize you, demoralize you, and to put blacks against whites. And thank God it's not working that much. But that's where you get to see this critical race theory and other little things. But people are like, the reason why people are waking up is because of the internet. If this sort of thing happened in 1995, probably wouldn't have been over. But now, because we have ways to communicate faster, we're able to push a notification, send a text, put something on whatever platforms that allow you to
Mm.
put it
Mm.
on. That's a
Mm.
big help for people to wake up. And but at the same time, like I said, we're dealing with censorship. So this is why the mobile carriers now. I've heard about T-Mobile doing this in their terms of service, where they want to fine people for sending out a text they don't agree with. So there goes the censorship again,
Yeah.
unconstitutional. I don't know what Europe would do about it or whatever, but They're
Well,
trying.
they're already trying to bring. They're starting that in regards to censorship.
Yeah.
Definitely, Chris. In the last sort of few minutes, I want to bring you brought this up, and I want to it's nicely segue when you've mentioned woke, when we've mentioned the media. Where is Hollywood in all of this? In regard to the programming, we can see that in some ways it's fairly obvious.
Yeah.
But what are your thoughts?
So since we're dealing with a death cult, right, and a
Mm,
community of gangsters, in a
mm,
sense, we have to realize when you see these forums happening, these conferences, these are powers around the world meeting to
yes, yeah,
what's
yeah,
next? How do we deal with
yeah.
um fake news, the term
Mm,
fake news? How do we
mm,
deal, and then within that we have the investment firms like BlackRock,
mm,
State Street, and Vanguard, right?
yeah.
And they are the ones mostly pushing the agenda. So it trickles down like a pyramid. Okay. So most people are not going to think an investment firm. They're going to think, say, if CNN was to do something, say something weird, they point at CNN only. They're dealing with the symptom, they're not dealing with the problem. Right. And
Mm,
so entertainment now, from the CEOs on down into the hierarchy there, we have I believe it's stakeholder capitalism.
yes, yes,
All right,
yes.
so the employees have a stake in the company, and
Mm,
they will help push that agenda too. The ones that are super woke,
mm,
far left, and so that now comes down into the writers' room, into the directors, into the producers,
mm,
whoever's on board. Not everybody's on board, but whoever's on board that has the power. And so, within all of that, whatever they create usually crashes and burns because they don't know how to create. Just like
mm,
Satan, he can't create, so he takes and perverts. Right. So what these companies have done is slowly take over Hollywood, and even not that Hollywood was all holy and everything, but you get my point. So
mm,
within that structure now, they've taken everything that people love and pervert. Star Wars. It's
mm,
not Star Wars anymore. It's their wars, you know?
mm,
Uh, let's see what else. Marvel. Marvel was on this track record of just putting out mostly good films, right? There was a little bit of wokeness in some of them, just a little bit. And then all of a sudden, everything just turned woke, right? Because for viewers out there that know, these movies and the people that make them, in Marvel, it's Kevin Feige, but Kevin Feige wasn't the main guy. He was just put out as a face, right? And so I can't remember the name of the people that were behind him, but anyway, they were more conservative and want to put out normal stuff, so they held him at bay. Once they got rid of those people, everything else became woke in Marvel. And then even down to the comic books are woke now. The DC and Marvel, and they're losing tons of money. So that leads me into, I just named two franchises there that people know well, Star Wars and Marvel. And
mm.
so from there now, like this year, it was happening last year, but this year was the worst for like Disney. Uh,
Yes,
they've
yeah.
lost billions and billions and billions and billions of dollars because no one is buying their stuff. Just like with the Bud Light thing, right? People had to wake up to what was happening with Bud Light, and now they're not bankrupt, but they're and even Bill Gates had to even put some money into Bud Light. That's how bad they were doing, right? And so anyway, so with Disney now, since they own Star Wars, Lucasfilm, Marvel and whatnot,
Mm,
uh, they even, like, say for instance, some of the movies that did $1 billion, the
mm,
budgets were so inflated. Some of the budgets were 500 million,
mm.
400 million, 300 million. So you have to make three times that to actually make a profit. So when you see a movie doing $1 billion, we're talking about post Endgame here, for people that know the movie. Uh, for the movies that you thought made a massive profit didn't, right? And so within all of that structure, we have the theme parks, which are
Yeah,
losing as well. And Disney went and spent, I think, $1 or $2 billion on a hotel. the cost was through the roof, but their propaganda was in it as well. They had to shut that hotel down. So people are not buying what they're selling anymore, and that's why Aquaman came out this weekend, flopped. Everything Marvel related except for Spider-Man was last year. So everything Marvel related flopped. Anything Disney related flopped. And it keeps going because no one is buying that, and people are doing the right thing by not feeding these companies anymore. You are the source of their wealth.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to see that. So that's another wake up point, right? And now jump into the video games. The video games are getting woke too. And from Grand Theft Auto to Call of Duty and on I can go. The most popular games are infected with what we call the woke mind virus, right? And so within Disney, there is a sort of a civil war going on in the sense of the financiers. Nelson Peltz is trying to get more board seats so that they can steer the ship, because Disney, if it keeps going like this, is going to crash and burn. They have money. They have money still, but they're going to crash and burn. I mean, you can't not make a profit for so long. It's going to go like this. And so within all of that, you have the streaming services. Disney Plus, people are fleeing that like crazy. Netflix, we're losing customers, but they started regaining them. But now they're doing more woke stuff again after they said they weren't going to go woke anymore. And all of these movie studios are becoming giant they're getting unified in the sense that right now Warner Brothers is looking to buy Paramount. That's massive. Disney already bought Fox, not Fox News, Fox Movie Company. So you're getting this consolidation of power that's going all over the place, and it's not just in the movie industry or entertainment industry. If people understood what was going on, they would really wake up to see the consolidation of power through sort of fascistic tactics, and some of it's not even happening on purpose. Just that ever since the Divic, money has to be
absolutely. Chris, sorry to be boring. In many ways, that's a good point to end it, and we could carry on in another conversation with that. So I'm just going to put up your logo. So could you explain to our viewers where we can find you, my dear brother? Where we can find you?
Sir. You can find me at don'tletthemburn.com. I'm on YouTube. I'm on BitChute. I'm on X, formerly Twitter. I'm all over the place where people usually congregate. And so you can reach out, ask questions. The best way to reach me. Also, my Telegram channel. That's where a lot of people are coming now, gravitating to my Telegram channel, because I share information, I share resources, and news that you won't find out about for like a month sometimes. So you want to go to my Telegram channel, just look up Don't Let Them Burn, and hey, holler at me.
Chris, thank you. It's been great to have this conversation with you, and turn the tables and get you on my show, which we need to do. We're going to do more and more of. So thank you very much, and I look forward to picking this up again. I really do. All right. Speak soon, my dear friend. Take care.
All right, now.
Thank you for watching, everyone, and I bid you well. Amen.